we presented, we made an offer from the stage. In 1 hour, we generated $165,735. And that's just your first sale because you're getting paid to generate a client up front. And then we have, since that event in January, we've generated $1.2 million in revenue from that same group of clients.
There's only so much scale that you can bring to one-on-one conversations. There's only so much scale to word of mouth. There's only so much scale to referrals. And so many people come to us and say, we feel like that best kept secret. How do we get in front of more people? And so naturally that answer is getting on not just stages. This is a really important thing, but it's getting on other people's stages.
So he made his talk all about ad changes to make to get more clients in without spending more money, because that's right fit for his audience. And again, in 30 days, we brought him 50 new mastermind members at $25,000 each. So it's like you get on the right stage in front of the right audience, you say the right message. It's like you get to push all the other garbage away and just reach that person and bring them into your business.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer Podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest. Welcome, Digital Trailblazers. I'm super excited to have with us our guests today, Kim Walsh Phillips and Justin Guarini. This is going to be a really fun conversation. You guys are doing some really cool stuff right now, and you also have some really cool backstories and how all of this came together. So we're going to dive into all of it. So first, just welcome. Go ahead and say hi to the audience today.
Hey, we're so glad we're
Hi.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you. So let's dive on in. We get a little context to what you're doing now, and then we'll get into kind of the backstory of how all this started. We are coaching people on how to speed up the process of growing their business, because we know, like traditional marketing, it takes 3 steps to get a client. You need to grow your authority, you need to generate leads, and then you get a client. So 3 steps. And in our working together, we're like, what if we could speed that up and skip steps 1 and 2 and just get on other people's stages? And so when you get on someone else's stage, they already generated the leads for you. You have instant authority when you get on their stage because now you're the expert, and you can just use their stage to generate clients, bring value, and grow your business. So that's what we do. It's called the Elite Speakers Network. We grow the authority and celebrity of our clients and get them on other people's stages.
Very cool. Well, we're super excited to dive in. So how did, for number one, in my mind, when I hear your names, I don't necessarily, unless you know what you're doing recently, I wouldn't necessarily put you together. So how did this partnership come about?
Well, it's really interesting. When I was about, I don't know, let's say like maybe 15, I found a cassette tapes. Remember those? Set of Tony Robbins. I think it was like Awaken the Giant within one of those things. And I listened to it and I devoured it. I loved it so much. But it wasn't until years later, around when the pandemic came out, just began rather, that I started my entrepreneurial journey just a couple of years before that. And I had just realized that, oh my goodness, I love marketing. Like I love the idea of being able to do what I do on a stage every single day, entertain people and educate them at the same time, and then actually be able to have products and services that are my own, that I don't have to like audition for or be, go through all the things that actors have to go through for. So a friend of mine said, hey, there's this app called Clubhouse. You should get on it. I was like, oh, another app. Like, who wants to get on another thing? Yeah. But obviously during the pandemic, it became huge. And I found myself in these rooms with all of these amazing individuals, these high-level marketers. And so I have this love of entertainment and theater, but also like this secret, like in my way, I love calling it my nerdy side of like loving marketing. And so I found myself in a room with Kim Walsh Phillips.
Yeah, so we connected in someone else's clubhouse room. Then we both were in each other's rooms on stages, and we just started chatting. And I eventually invited him to be a guest on a virtual event we had, and then ended up hiring him to be an MC of one of our events. And one of the things that was fun is that in between, normally when we have an MC, they're like off on their phone, or when they're not on stage, or they're going outside, or they're chatting with people. Well, Justin was in the green room using the event workbook, doing all of the exercises. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, oh, I'm a marketer and I'm growing my own course. And I want to grow the side of the business, because I'd only known him really the background of being American Idol, season 1, and being Broadway star. And he also, little fun fact, he's Dr. Pepper's a little sweet. Like, he'd had all these really iconic, roles. But here he was doing this. I said, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And actually became his coach. So I became his coach first. We start working together. Then I start bringing him in to do coaching for our clients on the performance end. So I would work on the messaging. He would work on performance. And then this crazy thing happened. I was recruited to be on Bravo's Below Deck Sailing. And I invited him in as my guest for that show. And we're on the show, and we start working with the crew on their messaging and how to turn it into a keynote speaking business. We end up getting Captain Glenn Shepard from Below Deck as a client together. And then he and I are like, okay, I guess we just started a business together. I mean, Bravo started our business. Yes, that is what happened.
You couldn't say that. I mean, but honestly, I mean, all you have to do is just type in 3 words, Kim Walsh Phillips, and you'll see a CV longer than you just scroll. And I knew when I was emceeing the event, when I started hearing the things that Kim did on the marketing side of the world, and, realizing that she had not only had marketing gurus like Dan Kennedy as clients, right? And Kevin, Mr. Wonderful O'Leary as clients, like Shark Tank, like all this stuff, but also had written a book with Dan Kennedy. And it wasn't just a book, it was his best-selling book. I mean, like all of that put together, I was like, oh my goodness, I have to try these things. And when I tried them, they worked. And so we just, I don't want to say we fell into it, but like we both like, oh my goodness, we both love marketing. We both love theater. There's a way that we can bring it together. And so now what we have is this thing we call the 7-figure celebrity speaker funnel. And so we've taken all of the best of our worlds and put them together into this really tangible product and service that we're absolutely in love with.
And that is a big marketing strategy for everyone listening. And even in that essence, you take your expertise, which is conceptual. Really, a lot of us know and do things that are basically the air. It's thoughts we have inside our mind. And until people can fully understand it, they can't buy into it. And also, your idea needs to be unique to you. It can't be something else that other people can talk about. So when people say, like, we grow your business, or we help you get confidence, or whatever it might be, those like that's what everybody can say, anyone in your niche. There's nothing that makes you unique in that way. So you always want to take the thing it is that you do, the service, the idea, and you turn it into a noun, a tangible thing. So by taking all this stuff about growing your celebrity and getting you on stages and turning it into a ROI-based funnel, the 7-figure celebrity speaker funnel, we now are able to share with people there's this thing that might be missing from your business right now, and might be the lever that you need to pull to actually grow your company in the way that you want. Now it doesn't require them to change themselves in any way. It doesn't require them to look at the world differently, which is how a lot of marketers start their messaging, right? It just says there's this easy button that you could press that could grow your business.
I love the marriage of such different but really interrelated skill sets. So as a marketer, as a saleswoman, as all of the, like,
there's performance involved in what we do in this space, and then to be able to bring an expert in that to marry the two sides of this, I think it is really interesting and I love when things organically come together like that, right? Where it just kind of happened and he wants to work with us and now we have a business because we have a client that we're clearly servicing together. So that's awesome. I love it. So how long have you guys been doing this now for?
We actually found some images as we were working with it yesterday, and it's actually earlier than we thought. We started working together in February of 2021. So yeah, it's crazy. And it's gone so fast. Glenn became a client 2 years ago. So that's where that business kind of started. But we officially launched the Elite Speakers Network a year ago. So it's been amazing to be on a 7-figure trajectory so fast and in brand new business when we both already had busy companies, busy families, just by using the strategy that we share. And while we love, our celebrity clients, and they definitely help raise the profile of the business, and we have a lot of them, our favorite thing is using the same strategy for entrepreneurs like financial planners and thought leaders and real estate agents, people who aren't well known, aren't famous, and they still can use this. And while Justin and I both have 85% of our energy is fueled by other people's applause. That's how we roll. Our most satisfying moments are when we're in the audience of our clients and they're on stage, and we can look at the people in the room being impacted with a message that we worked with them to create and get them on that platform. Like, it is the best job in the world.
So for our audience, definitely entrepreneurs, quite a range, a lot of folks in the service side of things, coaches, course creators, that sort of thing. So I hear it all the time because we talk to our target audience every single day. A big desire for a lot of them is speaking, right? And we know, a lot are getting on like podcasts and summits and that sort of thing. But their big dream, I hear it all the time. My dream, I belong on stage, right? And I'm like, that's awesome. I'm not going to help you do that because that's not my jam. But I'm glad there's people here like you guys who are. So for those folks who see that as part of their business, before we can answer that question, like what the first steps in doing that, let's back up a little bit and talk about the why that people should what is the value to them, to the entrepreneur, to the coach, to the course creator, to that person? Why should they even be looking down this avenue? And then how did it get started?
Well, I think when a lot of people come to this place of like, man, I wish I could speak, a root of that is I just want to get in front of more people. So if you're listening to this and you feel like you want to speak or watching this and you feel like you want to speak and you're like, man, I'm tired of being the best kept secret in my business. My industry. I'm tired of the one-to-one where I have to repeat the same things over and over again and get the same there's only so much scale that you can bring to one-on-one conversations. There's only so much scale to word of mouth. There's only so much scale to referrals. And so many people come to us and say, we feel like that best kept secret. How do we get in front of more people? And so naturally that answer is getting on not just stages. This is a really important thing, but it's getting on other people's stages.
Yeah. And it's getting on other people's stages that have what we call your perfect problem prospect. It's another thought leader who creates a problem that you solve. So you always are looking for people who are not competitors, but in alignment. It's funny because people reach out to us all the time who run events for speakers and they are a speaking guru. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense for us to go on that stage, to be in this red ocean that's so crowded. What we're always looking for are where are other thought leaders who work in leadership. Maybe that's the kind of event they have, all about leadership, or they're a book publisher, or they're like yourselves and they could talk about podcasting, like things that are about growth, but aren't in our space. And then if we are going in front of them, we're saying, okay, here's how you position yourself in that way to get on the stage. Now, here's the thing that's amazing. Just like we strongly believe in utilizing multiple marketing channels, so we definitely recommend podcasting, which is why we're doing this right now. We also recommend book publishing because that also generates qualified leads. the same reason why stages work. When you are either getting a listener from a podcast, getting a reader from a book, or getting somebody from an audience, you are automatically qualifying an audience of action takers. According to Napoleon Hill, he had this stat that only 2% of the world's population is driven. 2%. That they're not just going with everyday life, they are seeking fulfillment. And those that are either doing above and beyond, they're not just buying the book, they're reading it. They're not just having the podcast, they're listening to it. They're not just getting the ticket, they're going to the event. These are the most driven individuals, the ones that are not only most likely to sign up for your services, but actually have success. Because we all know we can't physically tie strings to someone's body and get them to take the actions that we want. We could show them the way, but they have to do it. And for all of us, like that ROI driven result from our client, if I don't see our clients getting results, I'm not going to be okay. I'm not going to be okay. This is the only thing that's going to fuel the energy it takes to run a business like this. So qualifying your audience by seeking it from a group that's already shown that they're willing to take action is the best way to quickly get the right people in your roster of clients.
And then when you put on top of that, getting on other people's stages, well, what are the 3 steps? We talk about building that authority. Talk about finding those right clients.
Excuse me, sir. You better do the ABC, and I want to hear it. Come on now. They can't get a little bit of your voice on a podcast.
Twist my arm. I hate singing. So
yeah.
Well, we've broken it down. It's simply in just the ABCs, right? What's the ABC? 1, 2, 3, and it's authority building, right? Building your authority, booking stages for the B, and then client conversion. And so if we just go through that simple formula, when it comes to building that authority, first of all, you want to show up as the professional you want people to see you as. That's like the big thing. And everyone has a different style. Everyone has a different feel. Kim's wearing what she's wearing. If you're watching this, it's black. It's black. I'm wearing a white t-shirt. I'm here. Like, whatever that is that represents who you are, your brand, your product, or your service, show up in the best form that you can of that thing. And I'll never forget my first red carpet. I remember walking up to after I got out of the car, and it was I can't remember what it was, but it was a big event, lots of photographers, lots of press.
Yes. Pause you for a moment. Like, someday I too will be on so many red carpets that the wolf wow. Right. But let's continue on with the story. Like, a statement like that is super normal. Continuing.
As one does. As one does. And so I remember looking down at my feet and seeing the blacktop and then the beginning of the red carpet. And I felt like as I was stepping over that line, I was stepping from reality into this weird sort of, and it is kind of like this weird pseudo reality. And I felt this thing that all entrepreneurs feel at some point, all people who are stepping into either their greatness or up to another level feel, and it's a syndrome. And a lot of people have that syndrome. Imposter syndrome is what I'm talking about. And so I felt like, do I belong here? Oh my goodness, am I good enough? What are they going to think of me? What do I say? I don't know. Oh, what if I make a mistake? And had I walked onto the red carpet and been like, and hunched my shoulders and tried to shrink from the moment, that's how they would have seen me, as somebody who maybe wasn't supposed to be there, who wasn't ready to be there. But I had to show up as the authority in my space that I wanted to be perceived as, that I wanted to be people feel me as. And so that's one of the first things when we talk about authority. And then just really quickly, we're impatient. We are so impatient. We're like, okay, we know that it may take months, years, decades to build that kind of authority. How do we build that authority way faster? And this is what we talk about by getting on other people's stages. Because guess what? There are other people, like Kim was saying, who are not your competitors, who are creating the problem that you solve, who have an audience that is gathered, waiting for your message, waiting for you to come along and say, hey, I've got the solution. And not only does it benefit that audience, it benefits the person who's gathered that audience. And so it's a win-win situation where by getting on other people's stages that are filled with your right fit, your perfect problem prospect, as we like to say, being on their stages makes you that authority. Being on their stage is like an implied referral.
Yeah, because it's crazy. We got So we had this idea that we're going to do this, and then we get booked for a speaking engagement. And it's someone that Justin and I had a relationship before. She asked him to come speak. I'm like, let's try doing this together. So we go to this event in Malibu. Nobody knew who I was there. And as we're walking into the event, the same thing happens that happens to me often when I'm traveling with Mr. Guarini. And that is everyone runs up and be like, oh my gosh, I love you. I voted for you in season 1. You should have won. You're so great. Blah, blah, blah. And then they assume I'm his assistant, highest paid assistant in the United States of America. And they assume I'm his assistant and they hand me their phone and say, will you take our picture? I'm like, yep, absolutely. With a big smile on my face, I do that all the time. So, which is just great, just fabulous. So
it is my favorite when it happens.
So as we're going into the event, like nobody knows who I am and they only see him as the American Idol guy, right? They don't see him as business coach and performance coach. So we go into the event. We don't even have people like clearing the space for us to sit. Like it was like one of those craziest things. It was like they just had no idea who we were. So we go out finally, we give our talk. It's only 20 minutes long. The talk ends, and as soon as we're done, bam, there's a line that forms for people to get their picture taken with both of us and ask us how they can work with us. Like it took 20 minutes to go from unknown to a celebrity expert authority in the area in which we wanted to work, people asking for us to coach them immediately. So we take this model on to more speaking engagements. We keep doing it and it keeps working and it keeps growing. And that's how we brought those clients in. Like we did one event for Technology Marketing Toolkit. We made an offer from the stage. In 1 hour, we generated $165,735. And that's just your first sale because you're getting paid to generate a client up front. And then we have, since that event in January, generated $1.2 million in revenue from that same group of clients. Like you make an offer from the stage for an easy yes. So don't try to sell your full year program. That would kind of be like going to Vegas and asking someone to get married. It only works when you're drunk in a nightclub. Like besides that, normal humans don't do it that way. And you're gonna you make it an easy yes that they say yes to, and then you get to work with them later on. This is the model, and we've just been doing that consistently. Justin and I do 2 to 3 speaking engagements a week right now, usually 2 virtual, 1 in person, and it's been the number one way to grow our business.
That's awesome. So I want to break this down a little bit because those numbers are phenomenal, and everybody's like, "That sounds great. How do I do it?" So let's talk about that. Is it more of like a bite-sized chunk version of your bigger program, or like what kind of pricing are you looking at on that initial sale when you get the opportunity to actually sell from stage?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and that would be C. So I'll just back up real quick. We'll talk about it in a minute, but A is the authority building, which Justin was talking about, walking in as the authority and expert, and we can pull in some strategies to do that as well. B is booking the stages. We'll talk about an automated campaign you can do to book stages. And C is client conversion. That's where you take your talk. We call it an income and impact talk. So you want a talk that's very impactful. It's motivational. It's exciting, but it also has an invitation at the end to work with you next. Now, a lot of stages you can make the actual offer, and some stages you can just make a lead generation offer. And if you can't make the lead generation offer, you still always want to tell them how to find you next. And it could even be as simple as, I'll be in the back of the room to answer your questions when I get off the stage, or I'll see you at the cocktail party tonight, because you still want people who are your best fit prospects to know where to find you. Our brains are always trying to conserve calories, and we won't figure out things if it's hard. Like there was a study done for an infomercial when they said, give us a call to place your order, and they gave the number, versus pick up the phone, dial, they said the numbers, wait for the operator to answer and say to her, and they said the order. Their sales went up 5 times because they simply told people exactly what to do versus having them figure it out. So you always want to tell them. As far as price point goes, typically you're selling something under $2,500 from the stage. Typically, at that event that we had, though, we did a $7,000 offer. Now, we are advanced. We are really good at doing this and creating engagement. We also had 180 minutes versus an hour. So there's variables there based on who the audience is, what their income level is, and how long you have to speak to them. But typically, we're going to be doing something around $24.97, or we might sell even an event ticket for like $297. because our whole goal is just to get them to one experience with us so that we can bring them to the next experience where we can bring them into a long-term client relationship.
Yeah, I think that helps because a lot of people, they've heard of speaking from stage, they aspire to do so, but they have no idea what they should be selling at that level. So that's awesome. So yeah, let's talk about A and B a little bit more because, or A and B, ABCs. Right, I got this. It's fine.
It works.
I know.
You want to sing it? If you want to sing it, you totally can.
I know. Like I just got to hear you sing it in my voice. We're good to go. It's like one of my kids' favorite songs right now, so we're good. Okay, so building that authority for someone who's new to speaking. What are some of the steps that they need to take, or how do they prep themselves and start to really build that authority?
So there are a few assets that you need to get booked on other people's stages, and that will be, you do need professional photography of you on a stage. People want to see, to book you, they need to see you on a stage. Number two, they need professional photography of you doing the thing that you do for a living and some lifestyle photos. You should hire a photographer who specializes in branding photos. It's really important. Number two, you need a speaker one sheet that lists out your speaker topics that you can talk on, any media credentials you have, and you need a speaker site and a speaker sample of you giving your talk on a stage. These are just some minimum requirements to have. And you can't wait to do this. Like, this is one of those things you're like, well, I'll wait until what? Well, what are you waiting for? And, you know, in my personal journey, in the last few years with my health, I've taken a health journey and I've lost 80 pounds. However, in the pandemic, when I was at the worst shape of my life, my audience also needed me. And when I didn't want to be on camera, I couldn't afford professional hair or makeup, the worst nightmare of my life. I still showed up every day because my audience was struggling how to go from in-person to online. And I still have people to this day. In fact, our event we were at last week, I had people thanking me for the programs I offered during that time because I was showing up. And so when we stop ourselves from showing up as the authority because we're worried about what people are going to think about us, I want you to recognize this. You're putting your ego in front of your mission. You're making what people think about how you look, what they think about you, more important than how you can change their lives. And when we stop focusing on what they think about us and start focusing on how we can serve them, we're going to show up no matter how we feel in that moment.
What is be yourself, be authentic? What does that mean? It is such a challenge and it's such a spectrum. Yet, when you understand your own brand, and when I say brand, we throw that around. Like the way I see brand is, what is the story that you want people to walk away from whatever you do? When they walk away, what is the story that you want them to tell about you? Right? Like, what is it? How do you want them to describe you? And it's an oversimplification of what brand is, obviously. But, if that's your brand, great. But ultimately, we do live in a world where branding matters. And if you know your brand, and then know what your audience wants, and this is another big thing that we love to preach, right? So I'll get up on my soapbox really quickly. So often we create offers in a vacuum based on what we know and what is true that our perfect problem prospect needs. What they need, we know that they need steps X, Y, and Z. We know that they need to stop eating certain foods, right, and start working out more. We know that they need to cut expenses. We know that they need to understand how to communicate better in relationships. We know what they need. However, 99.9999% of people in the world, actually probably 98% of people in the world, if you take Kim's, that she was saying, only 2% of people in the world are looking for that piece of life of self-actualization. And so most people wake up with a problem thinking about, I wish I had this thing. They have a want. They have a problem, and that problem forms itself in a want. And when we understand what those wants are, again, understand our brand, and we really focus our messaging on what people want, then we're going to attract our right fit client in, get them that first easy yes, which we'll talk about in a second, and then ultimately give them what it is that they need once they're in our world, and then they're like and trust us.
100%. I think that is a big shift for folks that are just getting started. They're just getting their offers out there, is they want it. Well, they need all of this.
I mean, legit, we find that with everybody who comes to us, even the most advanced marketers, the thing that if they're getting all of their business via word of mouth or referrals, they do not have effective marketing that can work outside of relationships. It's their messaging. We literally we work on everybody's messaging because usually it all needs to be tweaked more towards what somebody wants.
Yeah, they want to give them everything. You sell them what they want. You give them what they need.
Yeah, exactly. And in a unique way. So like we just have this formula that you take the thing that you have and then you put it behind it, blueprint, formula, system, roadmap. So you make it into a noun. And then you put you name it something. So you call it something fun or catchy as the title, and then the blueprint, formula, system. And then you describe what it does and who it's for as the subheadline. That creates this unique thing that's just yours. Now, when it's scrolling in a news feed, it's being presented on a speaker one sheet to pitch for an event. They're like, oh, I want to find this out because it feels unique and it's going to solve a specific problem. And people think if I make it too narrow, I'm going to seem like I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm not like an expert. That's an ego-driven decision, though. By actually narrowing it in on, like Justin and I know a lot of things about a lot of things, but we focus our messaging on the celebrity 7-figure funnel because it is now a specific zone of genius that makes us unique. And when you can narrow in on one strategy you focus on, you're going to get a lot more stages for your speaking.
Yeah. And that's for us and our clients too. Like every single time a new client comes in, like you said, narrowing in on that one thing. A lot of times people have just an issue with doing that because they think, well, if I do that, then I'm ignoring everything else that I do, and that's what they need, right? And it's that, like you said, it's that separation between what they want versus what they need. So can you maybe dive a little bit deeper into that? How do you identify what it is that people are looking for? Like, what is that top of mind concern that you can get them with a catchy headline or a topic that you're talking about? How do you identify that for your audience?
So we actually do things a little bit different up in here. And we actually go first in who you are and what you're most passionate about talking about. And because we want it to be authentic with your story, where there are amazing marketers who say, okay, I want you to find out what their problem is and then make everything about that thing. That's fine. But what we would love for you to do is like simply absolutely enjoy every single day you get to do your job forever because you're literally working in your zone of genius. Because I believe that God gave us things that we love to do on purpose so that we had discernment over the things we're supposed to do. And so if we actually focus on something we love doing, where God bless both of you, because when I ran an agency, I hated my life. I never loved doing that. I was never supposed to do that. I was supposed to do marketing, not run an agency. And when I started listening to that, what do I love to do? I love messaging. That was the one part of the agency I absolutely loved, was creating the messaging. We love performing. We love performance coaching. We're like, okay, this is what we love to do. Who has that problem? Who is our perfect problem prospect? The things we love to do, who is that a good fit for? Well, the people who feel like they're the best kept secret that come up. I would give talks about Facebook marketing because that's what some of my books are on, social media marketing. But when I would get off stage, people would be saying to me, I just want to talk like you. How can I give a speech like that? I wasn't doing that as my career. And then when I started looking at, okay, this is what we literally just did for someone. We both love doing it. Who needs this thing? Then you have a lot less imposter syndrome, which is a thing you're already good at that you enjoy doing. And you're finding somebody who actually wants that thing. So then you make your front end messaging all about the person who has the problem that you were best at solving.
That is a unique way of looking at it. So going first with, instead of just diving into their issues, let's first dive in. What do you love and are really good at? And now let's find the person who has those problems.
That's right.
Nice. I like it. Okay. So one big concern that people have is how to find stages, right? So if you can walk us through letter B in our ABCs and how to actually get onto great stages that fit, because I know a lot of people talk about it. They just don't know where to go or how to even start that process.
Well, there's this magical place that you can go to. It's a far off land. It's very difficult to get into, but if you know how to wave your magic wand, it's this place that no That's what it feels like when it comes to booking stages for a lot of people, that it is some esoteric thing that you got to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. You go to most booking agencies and they do not come through. I love a good booking agency, but we never ever in anything that we do recommend something that we have not tried. And we have tried a lot of different things. But
$100,000 on booking agencies and have never gotten a stage from them.
Yeah. And so there are 10 ways that we really, really book stages. And we found that consistently will give us results. But one of those ways, and a lot of people overlook it because it's just that thing people go, oh God, is LinkedIn.
Yeah, so we set up automated campaigns to go to event planners, event organizers, association directors that are run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have multiple campaigns running at any one time based on different topics that we talk about that literally say to them, how do you ever bring in outside speakers for your event? And when they say yes, say fantastic. How might one go about booking? They're always responding to me back to say, here's how we do it. What did you have in mind? And so we had these campaigns running in the background all the time. And it really came out of my frustration with spending so much money trying to find someone who could do this well, not just for us, because we vet our vendors before we bring them to our clients. We're like, if they're not going to do it, we're going to figure this out. And it's been working incredibly well. I mean, to get 3 stages a week right now, and it's coming, a lot of them from this automated campaign, is incredible. So we're doing that. We're looking at, okay, what are groups that bring in multiple speakers for different chapters? So like Justin and I have speaking engagements this week for the National Speakers Association at their Georgia chapter and Toastmasters for their New York chapter. Well, once we speak at those chapters, we now can go to the other chapters and say, hey, we just spoke for these, can we get in? So you can also find groupings, Rotary clubs, Kiwanis, chambers. Once you speak at one, it's easier to get booked on others. And then once you start showing up more on podcasts and other people's stages, you end up starting to get more inbound leads for speaking as well.
So when we say stages, we're not talking just about like physical audio, like an auditorium stage where there's an audience and everything. This could be podcasts, this could be TV shows. What are some of the other types of stages that you get people?
The campaigns we are talking about, we are focused on stages for events. So Justin and I were just a speaker, and I was actually doing the pre-interview with you guys who were driving back from speaking at the African American Development Offers Network event. That was an in-person, on-stage event for 300 people. Next Saturday, when we speak at the National Speakers Association meeting, it'll be an in-person event in Georgia at a studio. And then this week, we'll also do Toastmasters, which will be virtual. So we are booking actual in-person or virtual event stages using that campaign. When it comes to podcasting, we also are looking at the podcast for people who are influencers in the space who have our perfect problem prospects in their audience. So that's going to be the audience we're going to go after there. And for summits, we actually do not recommend them if you have to do a huge promotion to your list, because you are then getting your list on a bunch of other people's lists. And it is not a great way to grow your business. Are you running your own? Yes, I love that idea because it's a great list builder. But we run, one of the benefits we give people in our coaching is we actually run summits 3 times a year where we feature them as a speaker, but they don't have to promote it. We're doing all the promotions around it. Things like that are really good. But if somebody comes to me now and asks me to be on their summit and they're going to ask me to send out a 3-email campaign to promote it to my list, I won't do it anymore because they end up getting infiltrated with so much other stuff in their inbox. So I just diluted my relationship with that prospect.
Do you find that there's one type of stage that gives a bigger ROI than another? Like what's the biggest bang for your buck?
Oh, I would say just now in-person stages, right? I mean, there is something to be said. And I think everyone has seen, certainly we have seen the decline in people wanting to show up as much virtually because people are, zoomed out or whatever out, right? I think everybody is seeing that. Because everybody's like, oh, I was just doing live. Please. We spent 2 years or more in our house. And so let's get out. Let's do it. So certainly in-person stages. And I think that another thing besides how do I book more stages, because that's obviously the number one thing that you get at Digital Trailblazer. It's the number one thing that people ask us about. But then it's like, okay, you can book stages, but what about, we covered A, we covered B, what about C? Client conversion. At the end of the day, what about making some money, right? And not only just serving, but like, let's get down to brass tacks, making some money. And what is so great about getting on other people's stages, having that authority, booking those stages, is that when it comes to client conversion and speaking on someone else's stage, you are getting paid to be on the stage and make an offer and generate clients. You're getting paid to generate clients because the offer that you make at the end of your talk is just the first sale. That's just the first sale. Obviously, you're getting paid to be there more often than not. But when you have that opportunity to make the offer at the end, it does not have to be what we call that premium value offer, your 10, your 20, your high ticket offers. It can be that first easy yes, because that's, again, like Jim said, you go to Vegas, you're like, hey, I just met you, let's get married. People are not going to want to do that. And the people who do want to do that, more often than not, are the ones you should run from. So
red flag.
You find out like less than 24 hours later that it was a huge mistake. So that being said, getting them to that first easy yes and making an offer on the stage is a way to not only just be paid to speak itself, but to be paid to generate clients and to generate more leads.
And so much of what you're saying now, I think, makes sense because when you think about marketing, like people start an online business, a lot of people have this dream of, okay, I'm going to automate everything and I'm just going to run traffic and sales are going to come in automatic.
Wiggle my nose on the beach and the money's just going to fall into my lap.
Oh, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, just set it and forget it, right? You've set up your campaign and just let it run and now you're making money for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it just, number one, it just doesn't work that way. But number two is that the level of marketing skill that you need in order to create something like that and make it convert and everything is just so high that, I mean, it's a years long learning curve to be able to do that. Whereas when you get on a physical stage and you are just face to face with your audience and they get to see you, they get to meet you, they get to shake your hand, that proximity is what creates that know, like, and trust factor, that creates that trust and rapport where people are just so much more ready to buy. Especially when it's, you're on somebody else's stage, you're borrowing their audience. Like you said, I love that you said, they've already generated the lead for you. And for so many people, that is the number one hurdle to get over, right? Because it's a numbers game. You need to generate a lot of leads to get a few sales, but that's all you need to build a 7-figure business, right? But so many people, they generate like a handful of leads. And then it's like you're trying to squeeze water out of a rock, wondering why aren't these 5 leads buying? Where it's just like, get out there, get your butt out there and generate more leads, right? Get more traffic, generate more leads because it's a numbers game. But that relationship factor is what makes it so much easier. It just makes it so much easier to make the sale. I remember, early on in our marketing career where we would, funnel hack other people's webinars and things like that. And we would jump on the webinars of some of like the top names in the industry. And we would go through them and I'd be thinking to myself, this is boring. Like I can't even keep my eyes open. This webinar sucks. How are they making so much money? And then I would jump on another webinar from somebody who had a smaller audience that, was a veteran, but they were doing well. And it's like, wow, this is amazing. I got to buy this now. And the difference is, but the thing is, they weren't making nearly as much as that person who was, one of the top names in the industry. But the reason was because they had built that audience, they had built that authority, and they had that know, like, and trust factor, right? They had that trust and rapport. So they didn't need to be super salesy. They didn't need to be, like the marketing guru where you're making huge guarantees and, big promises and everything is just hyperinflated, right? They didn't have to do that. They could be more authentic. They could be a lot more relational, and people loved it. And they made it was like a 10-fold difference, right? Between a 7-figure earner and like an 8-figure earner, being able to do that. So I know a big part of this, whether, either way, that part that you said about creating that unique thing that you can say is yours, right? Rather than saying the same thing that everybody else is saying. That's one of the things that I know we teach a lot as well, is how can you make what you do different and better than the competition? And you said something specifically that I'd like you to kind of explain more about, but what does it mean when you say turn it into a noun? Because that's something, that's a perspective I haven't heard before. What does that mean?
So if we think about like one of the best marketing campaigns for something incredibly boring, office supplies, think about Staples. They turn the idea of that they make work easier with what? What do they do? You guys know it.
Easy button.
Easy button. They turn their process, their system into a noun, a thing. The easy button. It's a thing. When we think about the transportation pickup at the airport that you don't have to get in the gross taxi, Uber became a thing. They took a process that was brand new, a conceptual idea, and turned it into a noun. And it's also why things like, like the weight loss shots that are there, it very quickly is easy. It's really easy for me. I don't think about all the stuff I have to do. I take a shot. You want people to think there's this external thing that they can do that will bring you success that doesn't require, it's like, it has to be, when we start working with people, I'm not going to lie, sometimes they cry. Sometimes they put their head in their hands. We make them make very deep decisions. Like there's going to be a lot of work on the back end that they're going to have to look at who they are as a human and how they're willing to show up. And are they willing to make an offer to really serve their market? Like there's all these things. They don't want to do any of that before they know us, like us, trust us. So what we need to do is give them something they can easily buy into. That's this external thing that it's an easy button. They can press this button, this thing happens. So it has to be an external noun. So we take whatever their concept is and turn it into something that if I described it to an 8-year-old, the kid could draw a picture of it. It has to turn it into a visual that's well represented by something they already understand. And sometimes you can use a metaphor to explain what it is, or sometimes you can just use examples of how it is utilized in real life, but you want it to be a concept that turns it into a tangible object that they can see, because then they can buy into it.
Right. That's why we talk about the 7-figure celebrity speaker funnel. I remember we were in Nashville and we were working there with a VIP client, and Kim and I went out and we're just like, man, there's something, how do we put all of these pieces and things that we got to put them together in a way that's tangible, that marketers understand. And I don't know who, what, when, where, why it happened, but we ended up coming up with the idea of a speaker funnel. And now as marketers, we know what a funnel is. We know how funnels operate. We know ascension models, whatever that might be, however you want to twist your funnel. And so we're like, oh, so we can put in the 7-figure, right, ROI, celebrity speaker. That's what they want to be, that celebrity speaker. They want to be that big deal authority, right? The guru, the go-to funnel. Here is the step-by-step process that you go through, and ultimately that you take your clients through and the people that you want to serve through. And see, it became that tangible thing as opposed to a really great idea that we would have to deliver piecemeal. It just kind of put the bow on it. And so when you can do that, you then become more likely to be that category king, like an Uber. You end up becoming like Xerox or Google. There are plenty of search engines. There are plenty of copy machine companies. But when we think, oh, I'm just going to go Xerox that, right? No matter what machine we're using. Oh, I can't think what this is. I'm going to go Google it, even if we're using Yahoo or Bing or whatever that might be.
One of the things that we're always telling our clients is that, that differentiating factor is so important in everything that you do in your business. It's not just to get on a stage or to make an impactful talk on a stage. Every part of your messaging needs to be about that differentiating factor. Because the thing is, imagine if you went into a restaurant and it was a pizza menu and all the descriptions of the pizzas sounded exactly the same. Like, how are you going to decide which one you're going to buy? Right? The answer is you probably wouldn't decide. You'd have decision paralysis. And that's what happens when you go on a podcast, when you jump on a stage and you're just saying the same things that they've already heard before. You're saying the same things that other gurus are saying, and you're not saying anything new. Well, yeah, they may agree with you. You may be speaking to the choir and they may be nodding their heads, yes, yes, but they're not going to take action afterwards, right? Because their current behavior is based off the current beliefs. And if you've done nothing to change those current beliefs, if you haven't shifted those beliefs in any way, if you haven't given them anything new to change their current behavior, then they're not going to take action. So it's such an important part of not just, like you said, getting on stage, but of your marketing in general. And it will improve your business as a whole if you can do that.
Yeah. And would it be okay if I just give 2 quick examples from other people under other industries? So we had a VIP day yesterday with a client, and she really works on brand. And we're like, oh, that's like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Everybody says they work on brand. So we dialed in on what she loves to do. And while she leads in her bio that she is a certified branding specialist, which again, what does that mean? What we found out was she specializes in creating phone customer service, so much so that clients feel heard and well taken care of, and prospects are quickly enrolled as a client. We're like, well, your jam is actually the phone. It's not the brand. So we made her thing the $1 million phone call. Like now it's an object. It became a thing that people can tap into. We have someone else who's a financial planner. Again, everybody, like, you want to make a lot of money, retire young. Yes, we all get it. We all do. That's delightful. Nothing makes it different. What we discovered was his passion is working with business owners to figure out how much money they want to sell their companies for someday and what they need to do now in order to make that happen. So we created the Sell Now formula, how to figure out how much money you want to sell your business for someday and how to make it happen. Like, you take the thing that you love doing and you make it so specific that it almost feels too narrow, but now it becomes an object that people want. And it makes you sound completely different from everybody else and really gives them an easy concept that they want to tap into if they're your right fit client.
Yeah, that's that. And that last piece, especially that you talked about, I mean, I loved everything and I get to hear about it all the time that you just said, Kim, like that last piece, that clarity.
Yeah.
When, and you mentioned it, Todd, like people are like, oh, I don't want to. And again, we've had people cry. We've had people dig in their heels and say, I don't want to niche down. I don't want to niche down.
Laugh sometimes. I'm going to be honest. I also do have times, not all torture, but continue on. Continue on.
But it can be torturous for some people. And other people who just say, yeah, let's go for it. I trust you. And every single time at the end of the process, they're like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I did it. Because break the difference between I'm a brand specialist. Oh yeah? Okay. What's that mean? Or as opposed to I help you and your business make $1 million phone calls. Right? Oh, really? And it's the clarity of messaging, because a confused mind will always say no. A confused client or prospect will always say no. And the more clearly you can uncover the value. And I think just briefly, like the sales, like that's sales. So many people get afraid to sell at the end of their speaking engagement, right? And because if they feel like, oh, maybe I'm not sure if I can deliver, or I don't know if the product is good enough. I don't know if they'll like me. My ego is being put in front of my mission, which is they don't think that, but that's what's really happening. And ultimately what sales is and how we help people really understand that this is a beautiful gift that you're actually giving and serving is that sales is just taking the value that you have. And what I mean by value is the problem that you solve, taking the value that you have and so clearly uncovering it that the value of the thing that you have is worth more than the money in someone else's pocket. They feel like they're getting a deal by giving you a little bit of their money for a ton of your value. And so when you can create a clear, concise, confident message around your product or service, that's what gets you, especially when you're speaking on other people's stages and borrowing their authority and doing all the other things that we talk about. That's what gets you that client conversion and that easy first yes, so that you can get them into your world, so that you can deliver on what it is that they want, and then ultimately guide them down the path to your more high value services or products that ultimately help them with what they need.
Absolutely. So with the 7-figure speaking funnel, I think I said that right. What are some of your proudest moments and biggest successes that you've had for your clients?
Yeah, so we have that one client I mentioned, Scott Plaskett, who's the financial advisor. He did this talk, the Sell Now formula. He closed 20% on his first talk. first time. And for him, it's multiple 5 figures for every client. And then we have Kari Michelson, and she was doing only one-on-one client work. And it was great, but it was very draining. We used this formula for her, and she was able to generate over $100,000 in new coaching members for her business in 30 days. And then, it was amazing. And Brian Kay, he runs a company called The Wealthy Contractor, and his clients are home service providers. And what he knows about his client base is that if they are already running advertising, they're a great match for him. So he made his talk all about ad changes to make to get more clients in without spending more money, because that's right fit for his audience. And again, in 30 days, we brought him 50 new mastermind members at $25,000 each. So it's like you get on the right stage in front of the right audience, you say the right message. It's like you get to push all the other garbage away and just reach that person and bring them into your business.
Yeah. And what I find is impressive is the prices that they're able to charge because of that unique message as well. That's the other thing. One of the things that a lot of people I think are tempted to do is when they're not making sales, they lower their price, right? Because they think if they're just cheaper, they'll get some clients in, or, and that will be the determining factor. And the thing is, like, you will never run a profitable business that way, right? If you look the same, if you talk the same, if you're saying the same things as everybody else, then the only thing that's going to differentiate you is the price. And there's no point in being the second cheapest thing out there. And so it's just a race to the bottom, right? It's a race to the bottom to see who can offer their services for the cheapest.
And if you go to a new town and there's side-by-side restaurants, and one has on the window, it's $4.99 steak night, and the other restaurant has their filet mignon for $25.99, you're going to assume the one that's $25.99 is better, even if it's the exact same steak. We always apply the value of what we are getting, how we take it, how much we want to utilize it, the outcome that we're going after with how much it's priced at. So if you're pricing low, not only will it not multiply your sales, but it's actually going to create less of a value for the people who engage with you, because they're not going to see it as a valuable product.
100%. I love this. Any last things you want to leave the audience with today?
So we know the number one thing people want from speaking is to book more stages. So we put a free gift together that's 100 places to speak. We give you 100 different places you can go speak right now. Plus, we have a training how to get booked on those stages. And to access that, you're going to go to 100placestospeak.com. That's 100placestospeak.com.
Oh, that's a really good gift. I know our audience is going to run to that one. So good job on that. That's awesome. This has been an awesome conversation. We really appreciate you guys being with us today and sharing your awesome wisdom with the audience.
Thanks for having us.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.